The transfer window has finally slammed shut, and guys, wow, very interesting incomings, very interesting outgoings, deadline day signings, breakdowns. So let's break everything down. Let's rank and rate the 20 Premier League teams according to the summer transfer windows. Now, there's some teams that made signings last summer and the players joined this summer, so we're going to ignore those players and just focus on the guys that were signed this specific summer window. So let's delve right into it. So we're going to start with Arsenal. Now, Arsenal, the talk about Arsenal was, oh, if they get that one last signing, that striker, everything will change. That might be the guy that finally puts them above, Liverpool, above Manchester City, and make them title favorites. So now, when the Gyökeres signing came about, I would say the Gyökeres signing it's a great striker, right? It's a great finisher. Let's put it like that. It's a great finisher. I think the rest of the signings around him are a little bit underwhelming, right? Okay, I'll give them credit for Zubimendi. I think Zubimendi is an upgrade in this point of his career on the likes of Partey, on the likes of Jorginho. Kepa as a backup goalkeeper, it doesn't really hurt you. But when it comes to the forward options, before Eze finally came in, I was thinking Madueke, and I think Madueke was the only attacking signing other than Gyökeres before Madueke came on, like the last week of the window. Without Eze signing, I would probably have given this a B, but I'll give it an A, just barely. I think just barely scratches the surface of an A, probably like an A minus, right? Because I think they didn't really upgrade on enough positions, right? The DM position, yes, is an upgrade, but I don't rate that position as highly as I do, a winger or attacking midfielder or a striker. Gyökeres, I think we saw his limitations against Liverpool in that game. Someone like Havertz can give you a little bit more. So yes, he's gonna give you more goals, but the overall play that the likes of Havertz and Jesus kind of gave you, you're probably gonna lose a little bit of that. So it's a trade-off there. I think Eze is the cherry on the top. They needed Eze to make this window look better than it really was. So Arsenal, I'll give them an A. I mean, some outgoings. Tierney finally left. Marquinhos is 22. You guys remember Marquinhos, the guy, the Brazilian winger? I feel like he's been there for like 5 years, but he's finally leaving. But I give Arsenal just an A. Now, Aston Villa. I don't know if you guys saw the interview with Unai Emery where he was talking about Marco Bizot. When they were asking him about Emi Martinez, Marco Bizot is a 34-year-old goalkeeper. He's not really an upgrade on Emi Martinez. Let's be real. Let's call it what it is. He's not an upgrade on Martinez. Harvey Elliott's a good signing. Actually, a very good signing because they needed a 10. Asensio is not going to be there. Rashford's not going to be there. I think Malin is still there. So they needed a creative spark, right? You don't want to keep playing Tielemans in the 10. He's not really a 10. He's more of a 6-8. So I give them credit for that signing. Sancho, at this point, we know what Sancho is, right? Lindelof is a kind of a backup auxiliary center back. Not really any key outgoings. Bailey on loan. Jacob Ramsey goes to Newcastle, so it's not really too much to write about with Aston Villa. I think from what they had last season and what they're getting now, it's tough. It's between a C or a D. It's a very underwhelming window. I'll go D for now. Bournemouth. Well, Bournemouth should be here because it's alphabetical order, but Bournemouth. Now, Bournemouth lost most of their back line. They lost Kirkes, Zabarni, they lost Kepa, and I'm missing one. They lost Hoyson, right? So you lost basically 4 of your top 8 or so, 9 players. But they replaced pretty well so far, right? Truffert is shown to be a very good attacking left back. Petrovic, he's played some difficult teams at the start of the season, but he's performed decently well. And then you have the likes of Ben Doak and Adli, who haven't really Adli didn't really show much last season. He showed a little bit more in Leverkusen's title winning season. And then Ben Doak, if you're a Liverpool fan, you know about Ben Doak. You know he's talented, left, right. He can beat a man. He can put in a good ball. He can take a couple shots here and there. But it's nothing really too overwhelming. But they didn't lose any attackers, so it doesn't really hurt them too much, right? You still have your likes of Semenyo. You still have the likes of Brooks, Tavernier, Evanil. You still have your core attacking players. You just lost most of your defense. But 2 clean sheets already this season, and they look just as good as last season. You have to give a lot of credit to Iraola. So for what they look like right now, I'm gonna give Bournemouth a B. I'm gonna give them a B. Brentford. Now Brentford is one of those things that they got gutted in terms of they lost their best players, right? You lost Wissa, you lost Mbuemo, you lost Norgard. Flecken, Brentford fans have varying opinions on him, but he's a decent Premier League goalkeeper. But you upgraded on him by getting Kelleher, I think, in my opinion. That's an upgrade on him. Coyote comes in, Malambo and Ouattara from Bournemouth. Now, you didn't upgrade your team. This team is not better than the last year's team. I don't think they're going to score more goals. I think they're going to struggle a lot more. So for that reason, Brentford, for me, it's a D. It's a D because it doesn't really. It's not a better team. If you kept the same level, I would give you a C. But you dropped the level in terms of the talent of quality of players that you have and what you lost. I think I'm comfortable saying that's a D. Now Brighton, this is underwhelming as hell. I'm just gonna go ahead and put them in D. This is very, very underwhelming. They haven't done anything that makes me look at them and say, wow, that's a great signing, or wow, that's an improvement. Look at the names: Watson, Diego Coppola from, I would say Verona. He's a Serie A player. Maxime de Kuiper is a good left back, so that's a good signing. But you lost Estupinian, who was one of your better players last season. Lamptey, who will come in here and there, but obviously the big loss is Pedro. So that said, it's just automatically a D. Like it's just you're just not a better team than you were last season. So I have to give you a D. Now Burnley is a team that brought in a lot of players. They brought in a lot of players. Hartman, the left back, Bashir Humphreys, I think came from Chelsea or was it City? One of the two. Loom Chowna came in from Verona. Strand Larson, Lester Gochuku Dubravka, Amanyo Broha, I think on loan from Chelsea. So a lot of incomings. And when you look at Burnley's team last season, it wasn't exceptional. It was a team built on the defense. So just for the sheer fact that they've signed a lot of talented players, right? You signed some players from Serie A that, are talented Serie A players that, kind of fit in mid table to higher up in the table. I can give you a C rating because it's not just the sheer fact that they signed so many players. They signed players that can help them right now. They can help them stay in the Premier League. Broya, we know about him. Ugochukwu, we know about him. Dubravka, we know about him. These are players that can help you stay in the Premier League. You lost James Trafford, but that was always going to happen, right? You just needed to find a keeper competent enough to replace him. And that's what Dubravka is a competent enough Premier League keeper. For example, if they signed like Kelleher, that would be a great signing, like a marginal upgrade on Trafford, but they just, C. We'll go C. Chelsea, Asugo, João Pedro, who I think is the biggest signing that they made this summer. Jamie Gittins, Esteval was last year, but he came in, so we won't even include him. Joao Hato, who I think they needed a center back. They needed somebody to kind of fill in because of the injury to Livakovic with the ACL. So they needed a center back. And Garnacho. Now, my problem with Chelsea is they signed a lot of players and they let go. Talk about some of the guys that they let go. Felix, who was basically deadwood. Ugochukwu deadwood. Broya deadwood. Viega deadwood. Chukwuemeka deadwood. Nkuku deadwood. Only played a Conference League game. So they got rid of a lot of players that they didn't need. But when the players they brought in don't really improve the starting 11. And that's my biggest problem with some of these teams, especially with some of these higher up Premier League teams. You need to sign players that improve your starting 11, not players that just fill in the gaps. Because if you didn't win the Premier League, I genuinely, even if you won the Premier League, you need to sign players that improve your starting 11. None of the players Chelsea have signed, I look at them and say they improve the starting 11, right? I would still rather Pedro Neto than Estevao. I would probably still, Madueke for me is probably a better player than the likes of Gittins or Garnacho, right? So they haven't improved on the starting 11. Yeah, I say João Pedro is an upgrade on Nicholas Jackson. Dulac probably is as well, but it's not too much of an improvement, I would say. I don't know why Chelsea is so far back here. It's supposed to be alphabetical order, guys. Why did I put this in non-alphabetical order? But Chelsea, I would give it a B. I would give it a B mostly because they got rid of a lot of players that they didn't need. A lot of players that just weren't useful in the club anymore. So I would give it a B for that reason. Now Everton, sorry, not Everton, Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace, the main loss is Eberechi Eze. They brought in Yeremy Pino, who I think, if you guys watch La Liga, if you guys watch Villarreal, you know a little bit about Yeremy Pino. Like he's a creative player. He can dribble. He can beat a man. You can kind of play him on the right wing, play him on the left wing, play him on the 10. So he's a versatile player, right? He's a very useful player. So I think you're not upgrading on Eze. Let's call it what it is. You're not upgrading on Eze. You managed to keep Gay at the deadline, but is that really a good thing? Because of where his mental might be. I think Crystal Palace were underwhelming this window. I'm gonna go with the D. I think it was underwhelming. They didn't really do anything to move the needle. I think they got worse in terms of talent, right? So it's gonna take management to upgrade them from where they were last season, maybe to a top half finish. But in terms of talent, they didn't do better than they did last season. They don't have better players than they had last season. So that's kind of where I'm standing on Crystal Palace for now. Everton, I think, had a great window, right? Because Carlos Alcaraz, I think, is a decent player. Tiano Barry is, I think, an upgrade on Beto and Calvert-Lewin. That sounds crazy. I know that sounds crazy, right? He's only played in Villarreal, only played in La Liga that I really know of, but he's a very, very talented footballer, guys. This guy he's an upgrade on those strikers. Just trust me. When you see him play, give it to January. He hasn't really been playing, starting every game. But once he kind of gets into that starting lineup, you guys will see what I mean when I say he's better than what they had. Dewsbury Hall, great signing, kind of a hybrid central midfielder 10 kind of player. Tyler Dibling, we all heard about him from Southampton last season. He's talented. He can dribble. Hopefully, he can add more to his game this season. But I'm interested to see kind of what the game plan is with these signings, because you still have Iliman Ndiaye. What happens to Dwight McNeil? Yeah, I've seen him on the bench. Is he going to be a starter? Is he going to be what kind of happens with it? Because to me, when you have Dwight McNeil, Dewsbury Hall, Dibling, you kind of have three players kind of operating in the same zones, kind of operating in the same. Well, not Dibling, but Dewsbury Hall and Dwight McNeil are kind of operating in the same spaces, right? If you're going to play them in the 10. Because I'm assuming you're going to play Gay and, Irubunam or James Garner. So it's a good problem to have. I think they've signed good players that probably improve upon what they have right now. So I give Everton a B, barely. Fulham, let's just call it what it is. Fulham D. They didn't do anything. They brought in Kevin from, I think, Shakhtar, shipped off Andreas Pereira. There's not really anything to write home about. There's not really anything to talk about from a Fulham perspective. So let's just move on. Honestly, let's just move on. Leeds Leeds. James Justin, Longstaff. I think from Newcastle is a good signing. Is a good Premier League proven player that can kind of help you kind of stabilize things. Goodmanson comes in. It's a decent window. It's nothing too exceptional, nothing too crazy to write home about. A lot of these mid-table to bottom of the table teams, they didn't really make any crazy signings. They didn't make any waves. They just kind of kept guys, brought in guys to stabilize and kind of maintain the status quo in their team. And when we get to these next three teams, we kind of start to see teams that are making specific changes to get to specific places, right? So for Liverpool, let's just call it an A. This is probably, in my lifetime, this is the greatest window. Can I put them? Yeah, A+. Probably the greatest window I've ever seen Liverpool have in our history. Yes, let's talk about their outgoings first, right? So Trent goes, and you replace him with Frimpong. Kelleher goes. Mamadashvili came in last year, but we'll just keep that in mind. We're not including him in the grading of this window, but that's kind of what that is. Kwanzaa leaves. You basically replace him with Leone, who, on many accounts, is one of the most highly rated young center backs in Europe, especially Italian center backs, right? They view him very, very highly. Luis Diaz and Darwin Nunez leave. You replace them with Ekitike and Alexander Isak, which I think are upgrades, right? There's a tweet going around. I think is it Anfield Edition? Basically said, name a better upgrade. And Mo Salah quotes it and he's like, don't talk about the Premier League champions like that. Yes, he's protecting his boys, but let's be real. At this point in their careers, Isak and Ekitike are better upgrades than on Diaz and Darwin Nunez. No matter what they did for us last season and winning the league. Ben Doak gets sold to Bournemouth. Elliott on loan. We didn't really lose too much, right? You bring in Frimpong, you bring in Kirkes, you bring in Ekitike, Leone, Isak, and Florian Wirtz. These are great signings that kind of addressed every single need that we had, right? Mark Guéhi coming in would have been an A++, right? It's unfortunate how that fell flat, but every need that Liverpool had was addressed in this window, right? You got the right back, you got the left back, you see Robertson's decline, you see Tsimikas just not even decline, just not really being a good enough championship caliber left back. You bring in Wirtz to kind of be a creative midfielder because it was something we struggled with last season, right? We got a lot of goals, but it was a lot of Salah. Now you have Wirtz who can kind of take that pressure off of him, create with him. So that's a big thing that Liverpool needed last season, and we have it this season. So that's a huge upgrade. So it's an A+ window for me for Liverpool. Now Manchester City. I still feel like they're short. They're short in some places, right? Aït-Nouri is a good left back. He's not really a good defensive left back though. So you kind of have the same situation you had with Vardio, right? Vardio was contributing a lot in the attack, but he was vulnerable in defense because he's not really a left back, right? Aït-Nouri is going to be giving you a lot in attack, but he's going to be vulnerable in defense as well. So interested to see how he kind of fits in, but I'm not too convinced on him as a defensive player. Reinders is a great signing because Man City need legs in the midfield. The days of Gundogan and Bernardo Silva playing all these games and is done. Even Rodri, you can't rely on him to kind of cover the ground that he used to cover. You need legs in the midfield, and Reinders is a key component of that. But Reinders is the only really other midfielder that they have, right? Who else are they going to play alongside Rodri that kind of can cover the ground? Nobody. So you're looking at Reinders thinking, bro, you got to play a lot of games in a lot of minutes because in the Premier League today, all this tiki-taka that Pep has been doing, that still has a place, but you need athletes now, and Man City don't have that, especially in the defense and the midfield. They don't have that. But Cherki is a great signing. Obviously, he's injured now for 2 months, so we'll see how he kind of ramps back up in the new year. Trafford comes in, and this is my issue. Trafford comes in, but then you also signed Donnarumma. Who's the number one? Obviously, it's has to be Donnarumma because of stature, status, and for James Trafford, you have to be so frustrated because you came here thinking you're gonna be the number one, going back to your old club, and Donnarumma comes in. Obviously, he has the clout, the status, whatever, and he's only 26. So there's not even a waiting period where you can, maybe after 2-3 years. No, he's gonna be there for a while. So I feel for him, but that's kind of and what is Pep doing? Because you want ball playing goalkeepers. Trafford can give you that. Donnarumma cannot give you that. And it's not like Donnarumma is this exceptional goalkeeper. We've seen how many errors he's made over the years. Don't let the fact that they won the Champions League with PSG last season fool you to thinking that this guy is something different. He's an error-prone goalkeeper that makes a lot of mistakes. Let's just call it what it is. In the Premier League, you're gonna get punished a lot more than in the French league. You just are, because teams are better, and they will attack you. And they're athletic, they're physical. They will attack you on set pieces. So I don't understand the signing. But Cherki, Reinders, they're good signings. They're decent players to bring in, but no real defenders that I can look at and say, this is an improvement on what you already have. So I think Man City really they're the same. It's tough, but it seems like the same team from last season, same caliber of, right? Cherki is worse than De Bruyne. And Reinders is an upgrade on the midfield. Goalkeeper situation, I don't really see too much of an upgrade on Ederson. Maybe B. If I'm B, I'll keep it at C. Manchester United. Now, Manchester United needed midfielders, and they needed midfielders badly. Midfielders and a goalkeeper. And they got neither of those. I mean, they got Lemons, right? Which I don't really know too much about him. I think he comes from the Belgium league. I don't really know too much about him, but Cunha and Mbeumo and Sesko are great signings. Manchester United needed attackers. They needed forwards because Rashford has gone on loan to Barcelona. Garnacho has gone to Chelsea. Anthony has gone to Betis. They needed forwards. So you lost 3 forwards and you bring in 3 forwards who, at the current stages in their career, are upgrades on those 3 players. So for that reason and that reason alone, Manchester United gets a B from me. Right? You got a goalkeeper who I think cannot be any worse than Binder and what's his name? Onana. He can't be any worse. Knock on wood. Because if he's worse, then wow, he's really bad. But yeah, I think a B is a decent rating for them. I don't think it's too underwhelming. I think they have good defenders. I think they have good fullbacks. They just needed central midfielders. If they got 2 midfielders in that team, a Baleba or a Wharton, kind of those kind of guys, I would feel a lot more confident about Manchester United's window. But because they didn't, I can't go too high on them. So that's where I'm at with Manchester United. With Newcastle United, though, now you missed out on basically every signing you wanted. Right? You wanted Ekitike, it didn't happen. You wanted João Pedro, it didn't happen. I'm drawing a blank, but every striker that moved in the Premier League basically this season, Newcastle United wanted him. So they ended up with Voltemata and Wissa. Now, Voltemata is an expensive signing for a player that's really only had 6 months in Stuttgart, 6 months in the top flight of European football. Top big 5 leagues, basically. But now he's Germany's basically number 1 striker. It's not saying too much because there's not really any German 9s out there right now, but he is. And it takes some talent to be that guy. Wissa, we saw him last season with 19 Premier League or 18 Premier League goals. Quality Premier League proven striker. Malik Chow, good defender. Emphasis on good. Elanga, great season last season. Jacob Ramsey, very, very talented. A couple seasons ago when he was under Stevie G, he was really showing quality. Kind of fell off with the signing of Morgan Rogers. He kind of fell off, but there's a player there, right? you look at what Joelinton gives you in that left center mid position. Jacob Ramsey can give you a lot more going forward. He's an athlete. Hopefully, he can stay fit, but he's a great athlete. Yeah, Lord Kelly to Juve, I believe. I have to check that, but Longstaff leaving and Isak leaving. It's not too many outgoings. Isak is the big one, but if you can get Voltemade and Visa to kind of contribute 20, 25 goals between them, then you don't feel too bad about it. So Newcastle, despite all that happened this summer, I think that's a decent window. I think you got some good players in there. Nottingham Forest. You lost Elanga and you lost Ramon Sosa, kind of guys that played last season, but you replaced them with Igor Jesus and you replace them with Dan Ndoi. Dan Ndoi, who's a very, very good player. Guys, I'm telling you right now, watch the tapes from Bologna. I watched this guy last season. Watched him in the cup final last season against was him AC Milan, but he scored in that final, and he's a very, very, very good player. He's a very, very good player. Delane Bakwa is another player that I like from Strasbourg. A guy that, creative, can play on that right side, play on that right wing, give you some goals, give you some assists, especially assists. He's a very creative player, very good on set pieces. I mean, you didn't really lose too much. Like, let's be honest, you didn't really lose too much. So, and the players that you brought in, when I look at Langa being replaced by Ndoi and Bakwa, that's a decent window, guys. That's not too bad. I'm telling you, you guys might not know too much about Elanga. I'm sorry, Ndoi and Bakwa if you don't watch the French and Italian leagues, but these are very, very good players. Like, they can contribute a lot to this team. Sunderland, one of those teams that they just signed and signed and signed and signed. Brian Brobby, Nordi Mukiele, Omar Aderete from Getafe. Arthur Masuaku coming back to the Premier League is an interesting one. Xhaka is obviously a great signing. Adingra, Taubi from Club Brugge. Reinildo was a good signing. Noah Sadiki. These are all very, very good players. It's just a matter of can they integrate these players together in the same kind of team, right? You're not going to be able to start all these guys, so they probably lost a lot of guys, like I believe Ekwa, who I was following last season, the midfielder, Pierre Ekwa, has gone to Saint Etienne or one of the Ligue 1 clubs. It's a good window. I think it's a very, very good window. I'll give it a B. If these players, most of these players work out, it's an A. But I just don't know. There's a lot of Premier League unproven players, right? You only have Adingra and Xhaka as your Premier League proven players, and as a new promoted club, you need Premier League proven players. You need players that will show up in the Premier League and perform at a high level. You haven't signed Premier League proven players, so I don't know what you're going to get from these guys so far. But the names, from what I know from them in the other leagues they played in, this is a very, very decent window. Tottenham Hotspurs. Now, Spurs were so lucky and so fortunate that they signed Xavi Simons before the window closed. Because if they hadn't signed it, I would have given them probably a C. But Matis Tel signing permanently. Danzo as well permanently. Takai and Vucevic, I don't really know anything about them. Guys, educate me if you know anything about them. But Kudus and Simmons are great signings, right? At this point in their careers, both of those guys are an upgrade on Heung-min Son. He's a legend of the club, but they're an upgrade on Son. But I'll give it a... it's tough. It looks good enough for an A. It looks good enough for an A. Am I crazy thinking it's an A? Am I crazy? What are Spurs missing? What was Spurs missing? Creative midfielder, because Madison and Kulusevski are out. They got that in Simmons. You needed an attacking kind of winger options. You got that in Tel and Kudus. These are good players. So I think an A is probably just about apt, right? Because for what Spurs are going to give you this season, these are very good players. West Ham, Malik Diouf, Magasa from Reims, one of the Ligue 1 sides. Mateus Fernandes, good Premier League, kind of proven midfielder. He was performed really, really well last season with Southampton. You lose Kudus, you lose Aguerd, you lose Emerson, and you lose Alvarez on loan. So it's kind of very underwhelming, actually. It's very underwhelming. Wow, yeah, that's not good. Looking back at that's really not good because you haven't improved your team at all. You keep Lucas Paqueta, which is a great, but that's not good. That's not good at all. Wolverhampton Wanderers. Strand Larson on a permanent for Lopez, who I've never really heard of. We've never really seen too much of. I didn't really watch Celta Vigo games last season. I mean, come on. John Arias coming in from Fluminense is a good signing. David Malawolfa, the left back, left mid hybrid guy. Jackson Chachwa from Verona, he's a good right back, right mid, kind of bombing down the wing kind of player. So it's decent signings, but you lost Cunha. So it's not really an improvement on what you already have. So again, C. Yeah. C. Looking back at this, am I missing anything? Am I looking at anything the wrong way? I'm struggling because I don't really think any team had a terrible window. I don't really look at any team and think, oh, you just did the worst. You bought players for too much money and you sold players for not enough money. Nobody really had an F window. A lot of these teams just had average windows. You barely improved your squad or you just kept the squad the same. So I don't know. Correct? Let me know if I'm wrong on this. I can't really say too much. Yeah, I think this is decent. So yeah, I think Liverpool and Arsenal are probably the Liverpool, Arsenal, and Chelsea are probably the Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea, and Spurs are probably the four teams that I would say had the best window. I don't think too many teams had great windows. I don't think too many teams had atrocious windows. I think a lot of teams just barely improved or barely got worse. So those are my ratings for all 20 Premier League teams. Let me know you guys' thoughts in the comments. Let me know who you think, or if I missed out on any players leaving or coming in. And I'd love to hear from you guys. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you guys very, very soon. Peace out.